Good morning. It's day 119. Good grief. I'm just flying by. Day 119. I have 30 miles almost on the nose to, let's see, what's the name of that town? Port Clinton. And if I go shelter to shelter, I've got to do a 20 today and a 10 tomorrow. But I think I'll do a tent site and make it 15-15. Just because 20 is still insane to me. I did 17.5 yesterday and my feet were killing me. I think it's time for new shoes, or at the very least new insoles. I got these shoes in Delville, which was 730, mile 730, and I'm at just short of mile 1200 now. So that's 400, let's call it 450 miles on these shoes. All right, here we are, Piped Spring. Time to fill up my water before I hit the trail. Man, what a crazy night last night. I was about 1 mile from the shelter when the rain hit. And I just put my phone away because it was coming down hard. Fortunately, unlike the last two major thunderstorms, that one was not preceded by massive wind gusts, because I've seen so many blowdowns on trail from those previous storms that it could have been a little frightening to have been on trail for that. I was just speaking of blowdown, now I got to navigate around this, which may very well have been from last night. But when I got to the shelter, and dang it, I was gonna document that shelter. Architecturally, it was pretty cool. I may sketch it from memory. It was a two-story shelter with a loft, and everybody was like, "Hey, we can make room for you in the shelter." And I was like, because it's still pouring rain at this point, and I was like, "Well, I have a hammock. I don't have a pad. I wonder if I could. Does this place have a loft? I wonder if I could hang my hammock in the loft." And so the guy was gonna set up in the loft, but we switched, and I set up my hammock in the loft. But when I went to bed, it turns out I could not hang it high enough to keep my butt off the floor. So kind of my butt and lower back were touching the floor all night, which is still more comfortable than sleeping flat, because my shoulders and my feet were off the deck, which is my shoulders are the most uncomfortable part about sleeping on flat, hard wood, because I can't do a side sleep that well. And I was able to support my head with my pillow in the hammock because it kind of slopes up. And but it was not the most comfortable night. And it turns out, after I set it up, the rain stopped, or as I was setting it up, the rain stopped. But on radar, it looked like we were going to get hammered with another squall line of severe storms within the next hour or two. So I decided to stay. Otherwise, I would have moved it. But then that never hit. And there was some light rain on and off through the night, but nothing major, no major storms after that. So I did not sleep well last night, is the moral of the story. This is the Fisher Overlook, 2 hours, hour and a half in on the day. Very hazy today. That should be an indication of how muggy it is, I think, or if that correlates. It's very muggy either way. All right, hiking on. The thing that's different today is these rocks are all still pretty wet from yesterday's rains. It's like a little amphitheater right here. Almost like bleachers. I wonder what those warehouses are. More warehouses there. All right, these have been going on for quite a while, these rocks. Starting to wear on me a little bit. My hips are feeling sore, just having to navigate all these uneven surfaces constantly for hours on end. Well, it hadn't been hours, but it's been on end. I hear voices behind me. Taking a break. Yeah, today's been really rocky. Like, probably the most consistently rocky the most consistently, continuously rocky of the rocky sections so far. You know, I've been over some rubble piles and rock piles in last 2 days that have been more difficult, but they were like a little short bursts. This one's been medium to high embedded rocks in the trail, continuous for several miles. So my feet and ankles are tired, my hips are sore. I've done the 3 hour, 6 miles. So I'm 6 miles in on, I think a 16 to 18 mile day. I'm gonna have a snack, put my feet up. Aside from the rocks, it is incredibly hot and humid. I'm just soaked to the bone, and it's not been raining, it's just sweat. So I'm gonna try to stay hydrated. There's some long stretches without water today too, so I gotta be careful about that. Hopefully there'll be some Trail Magic water bottles along the way. But I just stopped at a spring a couple miles, maybe a mile back, and reloaded. I'm not even gonna attempt to walk holding the camera. I feel like I'm swimming through a dense sea of liquid air and sweat. From looking at radar and hearing the thunder, I believe there's a thunderstorm right over there. That's what the rest of the world looks like from up here. So it looks like I'm gonna come up short at about 13 miles, which will make tomorrow 17 miles. Totally doable. I think it's just a function of start time. And so I found a campsite that is, gosh, from where I am right now, about a mile, maybe 1.2 or 3, but it has a spring, a water source right next to it. So rather than pushing on to the next one at 15, that had like a 1 mile water carry, I'm gonna stop at 13 with the local water. Hopefully that'll give my laundry an extra couple of hours to dry, because I've got a sack full of wet clothes from last night in my backpack that really needs to hang on a line for 12 or so hours. Making a run down to the spring, which is just before arriving at the campsite. I left my backpack up at the trail junction, so I don't have to carry it down to the water, but this is a really gorgeous little spot on the way down to the spring. All right, a little campsite off the side of the trail. The trail's right over in that direction somewhere. There's my setup for the night. Ground is so rocky here, it's almost difficult to walk around in sandals without misstepping. But I am going to cook some dinner and eat. I'm starving and I'm tired, and it's almost 7 o'clock. I rolled into here about, 6:20. I've been setting up. Got all my wet laundry or wet clothes from yesterday's rainstorm. Still wearing the ones I walked in today, which are also wet, but from sweat. Actually, they're just kind of drying on my body. But yeah, it's time to find a spot to sit down and fix dinner.